On a freezing winter night, when the city hummed under the glow of streetlights and snowflakes drifted like tiny shards of quiet sorrow, Alexander Ward, the CEO of Ward Industries, one of the youngest, most feared, and most respected businessmen in the country, stepped out of his sleek black car after a long back-to-back day of meetings, expecting only silence, warmth, and the comfort of his penthouse. But destiny rarely asks for permission. Just as he approached the towering iron gates of his building, he noticed a tiny figure standing there, barely reaching the lower bars of the gate, shivering violently beneath a worn-out beige coat. At first he thought perhaps she was waiting for a relative or lost on her way home, but the moment she lifted her face toward him, red nose, quivering lips, wide blue eyes brimming with fear, he stopped in his tracks. "Sir," her small voice trembled like delicate glass ready to break, "my mom didn't come home last night." For a second Alexander couldn't breathe, because those fragile words hit him harder than any corporate ambush ever had. He knelt down instantly, meeting her at eye level, brushing off the snow collecting on his coat sleeves as he gently held her tiny hand. Her fingers were ice cold, stiff, and trembling. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Leah," she whispered. And Mama always comes home. Always. She tells me not to go outside, but I got scared. I waited and waited, but she didn't come back." Alexander felt something he hadn't felt in years, a ache deep in his chest, something he had locked away since he was a child himself, abandoned in a similar storm by parents who never returned for him. The memory clawed at him, making his breath fog unevenly in the air. "Where do you live, Leah?" he asked, trying to steady his voice. Just there," she said, pointing down a dark stretch of road dusted in snow, lined with aging brick apartments. "It's really cold, and Mama doesn't like me to stay out long. She said to be brave." I tried to wait, but he squeezed her hand reassuringly. "You did the right thing coming here," he said. "I'll help you. You're not alone, okay?" The little girl nodded, tears spilling silently down her flushed cheeks. Without hesitation, Alexander shrugged off his thick black coat and wrapped it around her small shoulders. The coat nearly swallowed her whole, but at least she stopped shaking so violently. Taking her hand firmly, he stood up and began walking with her into the swirling snow, every crunch of their steps echoing through the cold, empty street. He didn't know why he was doing this, why a CEO who rarely let emotions cloud judgment suddenly felt responsible for a child he had never met, but something inside him, an old wound he had long buried, whispered that fate had brought this little girl to him for a reason. As they walked, Leah told him in soft broken pieces about her mother, how she worked late nights at a diner, how she always came home no matter what, how she would smile even when tired, how she promised that things would get better. Alexander listened to every word, his jaw tightening each time the little girl's voice cracked. He had seen life chew people up and spit them out. He knew the world was unkind, especially to the vulnerable. When they reached the apartment building, a decaying three-story structure with flickering lights and cracked steps, Alexander felt a heaviness settle in his stomach. The front door was slightly open, as though someone had left in a hurry. "Which one is yours?" he asked. "Second floor," Leah murmured. He lifted her into his arms without asking, sensing her exhaustion, and climbed the stairs two at a time. The hallway smelled faintly of mold and old radiator heat. Leah pointed toward a small unit at the end. The door was closed, but there was no sound inside. Alexander knocked gently. "Hello? Anyone inside?" No answer. Leah clutched his shirt anxiously. "Mama always locks it," she whispered. But the door wasn't locked today. Slowly, Alexander turned the handle. Inside was a tiny apartment, neatly arranged as best as possible, though clearly struggling. A small bed, a pair of children's shoes by a crooked rug, a half-finished drawing on the table. But no sign of her mother. The silence was loud. Too loud. Alexander stepped inside carefully, scanning the room. "Leah," he said softly, "stay close to me." She clung to his leg. That protective ache in his chest grew sharper. Just as he stepped farther in, something caught his eye, a note pinned on the fridge with a cracked magnet. His heart thudded. He peeled it open carefully. "If anything happens to me, please take care of Leah. She has no one else." Mara, the handwriting was shaky, rushed, almost desperate. Alexander stared at the note, a surge of anger, fear, and heartbreak swirling in him all at once. Leah tugged on his hand. "What does it say?" she asked innocently. He folded the note quickly. It just says your mama loves you very much, he whispered, his voice thick. His mind raced. Had something happened to her mother? Was she hurt? Taken? Lost in the snow? He didn't know, but he knew one thing for certain: he wasn't leaving this child alone. Not tonight. Not ever, if that's what it took. He dialed his security team, voice stern and urgent. I need a full search for a missing woman named Mara Thompson. Last seen last night. Prioritize this case immediately. Leah looked up at him with hopeful eyes. You think you can find her? He knelt again, pulling the too big coat tighter around her. I promise you, he said with a conviction that surprised even himself, I will find your mother. No matter what. Her small arm wrapped around his neck, hugging him tightly. It was the first moment he realized how fragile she truly was. He carried her back outside, shielding her from the wind, and decided he wasn't letting her spend another night alone in that freezing apartment. Not when she was shaking, hungry, lost, and scared. He took her into his car, turned up the heat, and whispered, You're safe now. She fell asleep within minutes, her tiny fingers still gripping the fabric of his shirt. As the snow continued falling like silent prayers over the city, Alexander Ward, feared CEO, self-made billionaire, a man who believed he had no softness left inside him, felt something unfamiliar blooming within him. A fierce, unshakable protectiveness. He didn't know where this journey would lead him, or how deeply this little girl would soon change his life, but one thing was certain: this wasn't the end of the story. It was only the beginning. And as the screen fades for your audience, remind them gently, because stories like these matter, because kindness like this is rare, because the next chapter will be even more emotional. If this story touched your heart, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it so more people can feel this warmth. Your support keeps these powerful stories alive.